Music has saved my life more times than I can count. Whether it comes down to listening to great records, or going to see other artists perform, or performing your own music either by yourself or with others, music can create a connection that stimulates both your heart and mind. And when it's really good, it can give you goosebumps and make your hair stand on end. While I grew up playing guitar, the main instrument I play now is the dulcitar. It's a combination of a traditional Appalachian mountain dulcimer and a guitar. And while I see music as a fairly limitless art form, I somehow managed to adopt one of the more limited instruments there is. Compared to a guitar, it's actually missing strings, and it's missing frets, and therefore it's missing notes. But I've found that within those limitations, I've been able to create more interesting things that I may have never ever created on a guitar. I first found this acoustic dulcitar in 2007 by complete accident. It was one of those moments that just felt like fate. I began working it into my live performances, and eventually I became so enamored with it, and audiences were always so fascinated with it, that it became my primary instrument. It had the ability to be simple, but within that simplicity, it inspired music that felt so genuine and new to me, while still having a familiar and nostalgic sound. It was capable of creating more of a traditional folk sound, but it was also capable of producing a more experimental sound too. I figured out ways that I could use electronics with the instrument to broaden its sonic palette, and I used looping to make solo performance more interesting. But I still wanted more. I had sounds and music in my head that I wanted to hear, but I didn't have the instrument that was like fully capable of doing it. I wanted something that was set up like the original acoustic dulcitar, but built more in the style of an electric guitar. But you can't just go down to this local music store and buy an electric dulcitar, so I had to figure out how to design and build it. This first one I built in 2012, and it picked up where the limitations of the acoustic dulcitar left off. But I had to figure out new ways to process and amplify it in order to achieve the sounds that I was dreaming up. Slowly, I gathered a lot of equipment, and it took lots of time and money to get there, but I've always felt that when it comes down to what you're passionate about, there's no such thing as too much, and that one should never compromise when it comes to your art. Eventually, I built 2 more electric dulcitars, each time experimenting with a little bit more different features so that I could fully achieve the sounds that I was dreaming of. I'd always read about some of the pioneers of early electronic music, and how when they had new ideas, they had to actually create their own instruments and their own equipment because it didn't exist. And sometimes I feel like that spirit is gone. You always have people telling you that everything's already been done. But I really feel like that's just not true. I think that even if you were doing something that's just ever so slightly different than what's been done before, it can still be groundbreaking, especially if it's meaningful to you personally. I really feel lucky anytime I get to feel just a fraction of that spirit. I play music and I build instruments to keep my head straight and my heart beating. I do it because I feel like I couldn't breathe if I didn't. But what makes it really, really worthwhile is when others happen to connect with the sounds that you're pushing through the air. And that's the best feeling in the world to me.